friends, it's Teresa and welcome back to my channel. Today's video, as you guys can tell, is going to be me discussing the elephant in the room. And that, if y'all are unaware of my channel, is Malyen Oretsev. Now, a little bit of preface. I read the books, like all three Shadow and Bone books, from I want to say December of 2019 to about February or something of 2020. And if you have seen those vlogs, you will know I am not a fan of Malyen Oretsev. Why? I'll get into it. But with the release of the Shadow and Bone show, I know that Archie Renault, who plays him in the TV show, has done quite a bit of work with the character himself as well as the writers to make him seem just a little bit more relatable and understandable. Half of it being the fact that most of what we see of Mal is through Alina's very limited perspective. So, things change. However, how much can you change off of the base material without it completely destroying and revamping the entire character? Who knows? But let's just kind of get into it and watch me get progressively more incoherent with anger. Okay, let's discuss show Mal first, because I finished the show a couple weeks ago. Let it marinate, let it chill in my bones and figure out who I like more. And since show Mal is fresher in my itty bitty brain, we'll start with him first. Now, like I said in the beginning of this video, we do have the issue of this book being told solely through Alina's very limited perspective. We don't see anyone else. It's first person, I want to say past tense. I could be wrong. First person past tense. So everything that we see is through Alina's eyes and Alina's eyes only. However, in the show, we get to hit a lot more perspectives. A lot more perspectives. And this primarily helps Mal a lot. We see a lot more of his personality in this show. We see that he is in fact charming. He's not just an asshole. He does genuinely kind of have a bit more of a heart of gold and a lot more respect for the people around him. And just genuinely, is a more well-rounded person. We see all the events that he goes through in the first book that we clearly miss, primarily that of him trying to hunt the stag to be able to see Alina once again, which inevitably leads to his best friends in the army dying in front of his eyes because they wanted to follow him, support him, as friends do, and then also reap some rewards. And not only that, but because his friends are a bit more fleshed out and have a lot more to their personalities rather than just these faceless characters, we also see a lot more of Mal personified and not personified, more fleshed out through them. We see that they're willing to follow him to the ends of the earth, and typically a person like that who has friends who will follow him no matter what kind of implies that he's a fairly decent person. He's decent enough to have friends love him and to follow him through the ends of the earth, even if that meant their deaths. We also see a lot more of his personality and confusion toward his feelings toward Alina through his letters that we genuinely missed in the books because they were being kept away from Alina. We don't see them unless you have the little special preview, I think in the third book, I want to say, where it shows Mal's actual letters that he wrote in the first book and had meant to send to Alina, and Alina was supposed to receive. His characterization in the beginning is also a lot different from the first book. In the first book, I always kind of got Mal as not so much an asshole, but he definitely had a big ego. He's good at what he does and he knows it. And as a result of that, he has a tendency to treat Alina like the nuisance little sister. He kind of gets really angry and upset when she joins the skiff that is going into the fold, and just genuinely treats her like a little sister. Some love and respect there, but it is kind of buried under this layer of mild annoyance and kind of you're messing with my game here, I just want to sleep with people. Which he does, he sleeps with Zoya. But in the show, he does have a bit more of the heart that shows through his personality. We see him wrap his arms around Alina and treat her very well, make sure she gets food when she doesn't have it, make sure that she's protected. He even runs after her when she's being kind of toted away into the little palace. You could tell there's a bit of protectiveness over her and a bit of love and respect, as well as kind of a bit of that sense of equality. While they're on different situations, they're in different teams, I guess, or units of the army. He treats her like they're equals, and he treats her like she's an equal as a friend as well. So it is a little easier to digest and understand where Mal is coming from with his feelings toward Alina. You can tell there's something there, but right now it's just how he presents it is friendship, because he doesn't really know quite what to do with it just yet. He was also a pretty resourceful kid. We see that with his abilities to steal food from Zoya when Alina needed food, as well as just like how he handled himself when they were lost, when he was trying to find out where the stag was, trying to escape from the Darkling's clutches. He's a pretty resourceful kid, so it's very obvious that he has the brains going on, whereas I feel like a lot of Mal in the books, his personality is solely based on the fact that he loves Alina and that he's a tracker. I will swear I will go more in depth into book Mal in a second. I just need to discuss show Mal and actually compare the two as I'm discussing, because it makes more sense in my head. I genuinely found myself rooting for him. I wanted him to find Alina. I wanted him to figure out where the stag was. I wanted him to figure out his feelings, and I wanted the duo to be reunited in the safest way possible. However, the one thing I didn't like is that they kept the ICU line from the books into the TV show. I don't know. I just hate the ICU line. Like, I get it. You guys have been friends for years and you didn't see her, like, in a romantic light until she was gone. But in the meantime, you were screwing other girls. But you didn't notice that you actually had feelings for her until she was gone and getting treated significantly better. I don't know. I understand the point of the line, but then at the same time I dislike it because it feels like it's a cheap way for like the main character to be like, oh my god, he loved me all along. Because it really is cheap. I feel like there are other ways to express that love and tenderness, so that being like, Alina, I see you. Now moving on to book Mal, and this is where I get significantly more incoherent with my anger, because book Mal is a different beast. Now, before I jump into book Mal and the toxicity that is book Mal, I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this once. I'm going to say it very clearly. Yes, I love the Darkling. I like the Darkling because he's a terrible villain. I think that had he been a good guy, he would be a very powerful good guy. But over the years, as I have mentioned in my vlogs, he warped into something else, and that whatever goodness or original great goal that he had disappeared with the years of seeing how his people have been consistently mistreated no matter what they seem to do. Still a terrible dude. Like, would I date him? No. But would I have a one-night stand and call it quits after, a couple rounds? Yes. I have morals. It just kind of depends on when I act on them, But anyway, moving on to Mal. Another tangent. I'm gonna say this. Mal and the Darkling are on opposite sides of the same toxic and abusive coin. The Darkling is very much the original, kind of a mold, I guess, for what you would consider abusive. They're very charming at first, very attractive. They know all the right things to say. They have their friends make them feel like, that he has done nothing wrong. He's a great guy. He's trying to bring about change in the world. And then you get to know him. You get to really understand who he was as a person. And you realize that he's not only terrible, but you have no way out of this relationship that you have carved with him. Mal is the slow burn abuse, or the slow burn toxicity. It's the one where you've been crushing on this guy for so long, and you're sort of blinded by this attraction, and since they haven't really seen you, you find yourself making excuses for them and just, rearranging your life to make them comfortable in the overall scheme of things. We see this a lot in the books, but Alina really does just adjust and cater herself to Mal and his comfortness and his comfortability in the role that he's given, and gives him an out so many times. So he's very much that love interest where you're like, you're not healthy, but I don't got a choice either. So it's very much the kind of toxicity where you cater yourself around the person. You don't really realize how toxic the situation is until you are separated from it, which Alina does somewhat bring up when she's alone with Nikolai. From the get-go, from book 1, page 1, or whenever the heck the boy shows up, he treats Alina like a nuisance. He treats her like a little sister who just kind of wants to tag along and join in on the fun, whereas he just wants to go play foosball with his friends, and his parents were like, no, you have to take Alina with you. But why, Mom? She's no fun. You just have to. She's your little sister. That's always the vibe that I got from Mal in the first book, or at least the first chunk that we saw him in, was that Alina was just kind of a bit of a nuisance to him. She trailed after him like a little puppy. His friends were tolerant of her. She kind of ruined his ability to get laid. That kind of stuff. That's really the vibe that I got from Mal, which, like, you don't really want from a romantic interest, but go off. He doesn't really change his view of the Grisha throughout the entirety of the world, like the series. He's basically very flatlined as to what he thinks of them. He thinks they're show-offs. He thinks that they think they're better than them, and he treats them as such. He, like, very much treats Zoya as like dispensable. He treats Alina very poorly when he finds out that she is Grisha, especially in the second book, making her feel like her powers are something to dread and something to dislike so terribly. Like, she really didn't have a choice, but he treats her so poorly, like, you know, don't ever use your magic, don't use it, like, do you have to use your magic, do you have to, like, he just has a very low view of the Grisha, and that doesn't change throughout the entire series. You think it would, considering, like, the love of his life is Grisha. But it doesn't. Instead, he makes Alina continuously feel guilty that she has these powers, that she has these abilities that she never asked for. One is the other thing that happens in Siege of Storm, and that is the fact that he kisses Zoya when it becomes too hard to be with Alina. Like, I get it. He has gone through some PTSD himself. He has faced losses and everything in between. But then also, if you've been through those things, why in the hell are you in a relationship when you are unable to take it outside yourself and really look at that? Whereas Alina, throughout the entire books, has done on multiple occasions, taken a step back from her own pain, from her own suffering, from her own responsibilities, to see why Mal is unhappy, to see why Mal feels the way that he feels toward the Grisha, toward her, toward the entire situation with Nikolai and the Darkling. But, like, when things get rough, and I angrily looked this up, like, I spent like an hour looking this up. But when things get rough, and that is when he tries to kiss her and she hallucinates the Darkling, or the Darkling appears to her in her brain because they are connected, he makes it about her when she is trying her hardest to explain herself and is very clearly distraught. He not only leaves the room, but then down the line kisses Zoya. When there has been no clear cut, like, we broke up, he just says, I can't do this anymore, you make this all about the Darkling, and blah 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 blah, and then walks away. There was no comeback from it. It's just like he kissed Zoya, and this instance of, like, Mal always dodging back and forth between not one but two powerful Grisha of their own right, not only pits the girls against each other for the entirety of the books, and for no reason other than the fact that he, one, could not decide what he felt about Alina in the first book, and then two, he felt like it was getting too hard to be with Alina because she had all this responsibility and all these roles she had to play as basically a saint in human form, that he felt a little left out. I'm gonna bring this up again, but the I see you line is cheap. I don't like it. Why do you need someone to leave before you realize how much you actually care for someone? Why can't you just be internally, like, I get it, they're teenagers, but also, like, you are both in the army. You are both in the army. Mal knew the kind of situations that happened to people in the first army. They died. So how have you, in this entire time that you've been in this army, to have risen the way that you have, not taken it upon yourself to really take a good look and see that maybe you might lose the person that you're standing next to, that you've been with your entire life? So you're gonna use a cheap I see? No. The next point I have against Book Mal is that he literally, like I said this before, he literally made everything about him. Literally. Like, I understood that he has these layers of PTSD and trauma. I get that. I truly do. However, a lot of the things and the decisions that he made were about him. In the first book, not so much. But in the second book, he joins in a hidden fight club to prove that he's better than the Grisha. While fighting Grisha, he consistently asks Alina to run away with him when she has all these responsibilities and all these things that she has to do to make the world better. Even like the ending, the very ending, spoilers for the series, where Alina's powers are gone. I'm gonna hold this up, and then once it's down, the spoilers are done. where her powers are gone and she's human in all rights, that happy ending of her being a teacher, of him having a freaking farm somewhere, were his. It wasn't Alina. Alina wanted to stay. She said it multiple times in the books that she wanted to stay and make the Grisha better. She wanted to do what the Darkling could not do. But since she lost her powers, they decided to fulfill Mal's dream of living a normal life somewhere. Where Alina, in the entirety of the third book, has mentioned and made bonds with these Grisha and discussed how she wanted to make an actual positive change and protect the Grisha in a way that the Darkling wanted to but could not. And the thing is Alina caters that. She caters everything to Mal, to what he wants, to his needs, and it's very obvious, specifically in the third book, where Alina is starting to see a future with the Grisha, with the people that she's bonded with, and the people who are doing things to protect her and the people around them. And then she still just adjusts her entire life for Mal. And it's just like, what? Like, literally, I get it, it's in her limited perspective, but even in the context clues of the characterization that Mal has, there's just no way for Mal to be considered a good person, in my eyes, once the series is over. Overall, at the moment, I'm gonna say I prefer Shomal. Shomal has a lot more of the personality, like I said, and a lot more of the drive. However, there is still a lot of room, potentially 2 other seasons worth of error. Like, we've already seen it with the I see you line, even his snide little remarks, which I understand. He's in pain. He has the right to those snide little remarks, but also, like, homegirl got a stag collar sticking out of her chest, so, like, maybe keep him to yourself for a later time. And as well as his view on the Grisha. When Alina leaves in the little carriage, he tells Zoya he's not safe with the Grisha, and she goes, she's a Grisha herself, and he goes, And the entire time, it's just like this very weird view that he has in the Grisha, and it's just like, don't know how that will change as the books progress, but they've already kind of set that in stone. Nor do I know how they will utilize Zoya and that whole, like, love triangle. Like, the Zoya, Alina, Nikolai, Mal, Darkling kind of, like, little pentagram house thing. That's sure, Therese. I don't know how they're gonna do that, but as of right now, we'll see. Like, I think Mal's character will play out a little bit differently, considering the situation is vastly different from what it originally was. And to boot, we will also be seeing them traveling probably with the crows for a little bit. So we'll probably see, like, some Inej, Jesper, and a little bit of Kaz talking back to however Mal might want to mistreat Alina or say kind of rude things to Alina. We'll also see how Mal kind of responds to Alina and Darkling having a little shum-shum. A little shum-shum. And as well as when he finally sees that the scar is gone on her hand. So we'll see exactly what happens in that scenario and in that time for Mal's character to continue. But as of right now, Shomal is superior. Shomal is superior. But that is it for my thoughts on Book Mal versus Shomal. Clearly I have a preference, but again, I don't know how much you can deviate from the base material without you completely changing his character overall. So we have 2 more seasons, I believe, probably 2 more seasons of the entire, like, Shadow and Bone, like, first set of trilogy. So we will see how this goes. But until next time, hit like, subscribe, comment, and if you guys have any more kind of related Shadow and Bone things you'd like me to talk about, let me know in the comments below. But until next time, hope you guys are having a wonderful week, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye!